I got back from seeing The Joker. Wow, it's a dark movie. I mean, hats off to DC for having the balls to make a movie about a dark serial killer, a movie about a dark serial killer. Wow, you know, I don't know. It's hard to hit Heath Ledger's legendary performance as the Joker, but Joaquin Phoenix kind of made it his own. He and from what I hear, much like it bothered Heath Ledger, this portrayal of the Joker is bothering Joaquin Phoenix. And when you watch the movie, you can understand why, because he had to go someplace dark, dark for this. And it kind of, I don't know if it takes so much it does take a much more realistic look at the Joker. As what would, in the real world, what would create the Joker? Because the Heath Ledger performance, he was sort of like a force of nature. He came out of nowhere. His motivations was just chaos. But this one, look, they make it, you can tell it's, if you took basics in psychology in courses, that you could see where this Joker's coming from. The whole drama about the army should be on guard makes no sense to me, because at no point in this movie did I get the idea that it's promoting violence against the military or even the government. It's very much, what if the 99ers, or the what the hell were they called? The ones that bulldoze all their stuff back in the day. Dang, I can't remember. The the 99ers, the movement kind of got extremely violent. And I can see why it was placed in the 80s, because the 80s was a very violent time. Most people don't remember it because they're kind of nostalgia for the 80s. Now 90s. Damn, I feel old. Anyway, but 80s was a very violent time. And you can see how this movie probably couldn't be done in the modern times when everyone had a cell phone. But you can see, you get a real feel, and it's kind of, this movie, if it's successful, is a huge threat to the future comic book movies, because this movie does not pull its punches. The Joker in the comic books is a psychotic serial killer, and he's a psychotic serial killer. It's you know, he just, wow, it was so dark. I was bothered for a while after coming. This is not an easy sit through. Just you can make movies about villains. Like Scorsese made a movie about a villain, with the Wolf of Wall Street, and made him charismatic and funny. And that guy was a real dude villain. He was, yeah, but whatever, what have you. But wow, was this movie dark? I mean, I brought a flask, and I think I emptied half of it, because it was dark and depressing. And that's something I was not going to expect that DC would have the balls to go for. Because I was waiting for a moment where they try to redeem him, try to humanize him. And the way they do it, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's powerful what they do with that when you see what goes down. But wow, the Joker, I think, could be this generation's Taxi Driver. And there's some very strong references to Taxi Driver. That if you watch this movie, either before or after Go See Taxi Driver. And I think this movie's darker than that because it ends where Taxi Driver should have ended. There's no way Travis Bickle would have gotten off in real life. This ends how Taxi Driver should have ended. But wow, was it dark? I mean, depressingly dark. There was no light at the end of that tunnel. It just got darker and darker and darker. Wow. But what? I think this is a very important comic book movie. I don't know if the Academy will give them awards because the Academy only gives awards to the shit that we find out you have to pay them, you bribe them to give it to them. Because really, this movie goes to a place that is dark and it examines mental illness and what happens when you let mentally ill people easy access to guns. Like literally, this is pretty much a like if they said it in the now, it would have been a movie about mass shooters, but they said it in the '80s, so they had mass shooters in the '80s, but they weren't like they were like it wasn't every freaking week like it is now. But like wow, this was a dark movie. The kind of movie that it's a hard sit down because it's just so much dread. You're like something bad's gonna happen, and something bad will happen. Bad things happen in this movie. Wow. But if DC wants to use this to start reboot their whole lineup, wow, that's gonna be ballsy. Because I could be like, I don't know, they won't. They just can't. It's too dark to be the birthplace of a new era. But if they use this to kind of explore the dark side of their villains, because there are some dark villains in DC. Well, there's dark villains in Marvel too, but DC. If they let directors with skill, because this was a very skillfully crafted movie. Like I was not bored. I don't think I can think of a scene that could have been cut because every scene serviced the story. It didn't feel like it was forced. There's no pointless casino scene, that could easily have been cut from the movie or scenes stolen from. Well, I don't think there are any scenes stolen from anime. Not that I can think of, but who knows? But this is a movie about a dark, dark character, and they don't try to make him humanized. Like they try to turn Venom into a good guy. Where they did that in the comic books too, but that Venom movie, I think it would have been people would talk better of it. It wouldn't have done nearly as well, but they would have talked better of it if they had stuck with like the origin of Venom, and like because Venom had to go through a journey to become an anti-hero because he was a villain and became sort of an anti-hero. But I digress. That's another series, another company. But wow, this was an amazing movie, and if it was a movie that wasn't a DC comic book movie, I strongly believe it would have been contender for awards because they look at the dark side of humanity. The dark side of the medical health system, where like we just dump these people out on the streets. Like this was a thing that happened in the '80s. Reagan dumped a bunch of mentally ill people onto the streets, and until 86, they had access to full automatics until they tried shooting him. Then he changed his mind about guns after they shot him. Next time Trump says how he's the most beat down and abused president in history, just remind him Reagan got shot. But that's something else. But wow, this is a dark movie. And I give kudos. They deserve kudos for being so dark. because they didn't pull punches. They did a movie about a bad guy, and they made him a bad guy. You know, yeah, they may have been bits and pieces of him that were nice, but in the end, he was a bad guy. He was never gonna be like an anti-hero. They weren't gonna try to make the Joker the hero of this movie. You know, like I am worried because this might trigger. Well, truth be told, anything will trigger these psychopaths now. Like I'm pretty, shit. Pretty much anything that can trigger these psychopaths. But this movie really does look at schizophrenia and delusional states, and what happens when you're off your meds. Because this shit. When you cut someone off from their meds, bad things happen. But wow, this movie was a bold direction to take, and I'm very I almost I didn't clap at the movie. It was too damn dark. But I'm like, God damn, that was. I actually think I did say that out loud when they was when it ended. Like, God damn, that's dark. But it's a dark character. The Joker is not a good guy. Ladies, you do not want to be Harley Quinn. The Joker is a bad, bad man. And wow, do they make you really, wow. Good movie. Good movie that makes you feel horrible. Like I said, I emptied a flask of brandy. That was a rough movie to sit through. But technically, it was editing wise, film wise. I don't think there was a wasted scene. The performances were extraordinary. Like you see what the fuck. Wow. This movie was dark. Wow. I felt depressed after watching this movie. And that's maybe not a good feeling to have, but I respect any movie that causes an emotion, except Rian Johnson's attempt to Rian Johnson wants to piss you off. And this movie wants you to fucking feel kind of squirmy and unswell and unhappy because the Joker's that kind of character. And wow, I don't know if I can see it again. It was a rough watch. I don't know. It's definitely not a movie that's easy to sit through. Like, not because it's bad, but because it's what you're seeing is done well, but it's depicting bad things. Wow, this is so dark. Like I said, this might be my generation's answer to Taxi Driver. And I don't know if that's a spoiler for anyone, but if you watch this movie and you're like, wow, this dude is darker than Travis Bickle. Wow, it's dark. So yeah, kudos to DC for having the balls to do this movie, because I can't imagine them Marvel doing after, especially with Disney and Feige. Nah, they can't go dark. They can go bloody with Deadpool, but I don't think they can go dark. And there is dark stuff in Marvel too. If you look at their shit, they can get dark when they want to, but I don't think they will. Especially if they do do a Carnage movie. I don't know how you can do that movie not NC-17. They'd have to do that shit on HBO. Because the Carnage is this is like the Carnage is the closest equivalent in my opinion to Joker in the Marvel universe. Because they're both serial killers. It's just the Joker doesn't need a symbiote to give him superpowers to be terrifying. Although Carnage I forget what was his name? I forgot his name, but he was a scary dude. This movie's about a scary dude, and wow, does it go dark? there will be no light at the end of the tunnel. But if you really want an adult, no punches pulled, no excuses made, no attempts at at like turning him into an anti-hero, this is your movie. Again, I don't understand the whole hysteria with the army, because at no point do I get the vibe of like, let's kill the soldiers. There's no soldiers in this movie. I don't know where the hell that came from. The only thing I could think of is like they might they're worried that they'll call in the National Guard. They won't. People don't riot anymore. Been good. But yeah, when was the last time we had a good proper riot? Like what, 10 years in this country? Nah, everyone's too locked down. But yeah. Well, that's not true. We have sports riots. We don't have political riots. At least not yet. Although the fact that the president of the United States is trying to stoke one is amazing. But again, let me just end this. I'm rambling. But yeah, Joker is a good movie. A good movie about really bad things. So be advised. I recommend going to a theater that serves alcohol, because you don't want to be there with kids, because you just know some idiot's gonna bring their kids. The show I went to was a 4:30 one, so it wasn't really. Most people were still either getting out of work or still at work, so there wasn't that many people in the theater. It was nowhere near packed. So I don't think it'll do well just because it's so violent. So you can't get the kids in there normally. And it's a dark movie. It's a well-made movie. This would be, if it was anything but a DC line, it would be like an art house darling. But wow, I'd say see it if you can, if you if you can stomach movies like The Taxi Driver, some bleak stuff. But yeah, I'm rambling. I recommend the movie with caveats. Don't bring your kids under no circumstances. This is a movie that earns its R rating. Don't bring your girl. I don't know if you want to bring a date to this movie. This is very much not a date movie. You know, bring your healthy friend, but don't bring your sick friend, the one that's a loner. This might trigger something in him. No, I won't. Well, I don't know. You can't. It's so hard these days. I'm pretty sure if My Little Pony is triggering a psychopath somewhere. Well, that's it. Good night.